This is the dun, 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 theme song, and we are in. Probably a couple minutes late coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, sorry for the late start. I was talking with my new good buddy here, Raptor, about internets and phone lines and all that cool stuff. No, we're not too terribly late at all. We're actually live right now. I'm watching the stream come out as it goes. Greetings and salutations from Humble, Texas. I am your spirit guide and host, Joe, the old Humble guy himself. And next to me on the co-pilot seat tonight is YouTube gaming sensation Raptor. Raptor, say hi to everybody.
Hello.
And there you go. That is the voice you hear on the games. You do the picture in picture. You have the face cam on when you're doing your gaming, so they actually see
Yeah,
your face on the games when you're playing. So this is not just the disembodied voice you see or you hear; it's the actual face as well.
that's right.
Raptor's got 750,000 subscribers, 735,000 last I saw, and 5,000. What was the number? 5,289 videos. Write everything down so I don't forget it. And you can find him on YouTube, just Raptor. There it is. The channel name, I think the channel name is ICB or Raptor ICBM, right?
ICBM Raptor 2.
There you go. So yeah, you can, but you just go to YouTube, hit Raptor, and there it is. And it's the first one that pops up. He's not hard to find at all. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I do truly appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to picking your brain and hearing some great stories from the tundra states up north.
Yeah, thank you.
So real quick, a couple of housekeeping items. Big thanks to our hosts, the Cabin Fever live stream network over on Twitch. Thank you guys for hosting us and having us on the show. That is a collective of artists that put together a Twitch channel because they lost all their venues back in March down here in Houston. All the venues basically closed, so they put together this Twitch channel so that they could continue to perform and they could continue to perform and actually practice that muscle of performance that live performers get even when they don't have a stage. So if you're on Twitch, find Cabin Fever live stream, twitch.tv/Cabin Fever live stream. Turn them on in the background. They pretty much have shows going from 5 o'clock to midnight every day of the week. Turn them on in the background. Engage with the shows. They're fun folks, fun guys. Programming every day. Saturday they do or Monday they do a conspiracy show. Gabbing the Truth. Wednesday G Spot. 5 o'clock every week is 5 o'clock Shadow with Ryan Adam Wells. Trivial Non-Pursuit on Sunday nights. All kinds of fun stuff. Tune in, enjoy. I am a local sin merchant down here in Houston, Texas. I make whiskey. Whiskey you can find all across the great state of Texas and occasionally in bars of folks in other states. And this is my opening shot for today. It is our straight whiskey. So cheers to everybody out there in internet world. And Raptor, tell us a little bit about what you do over on the various channels you got, your YouTubes and Twitches and stuff you do.
Well, I certainly have been doing this for a while, and recently kind of been changing over the last couple of years to play more than just used to be really big into real-time strategy games, things like well, probably everybody's heard of StarCraft and Red Alert and things like that, and then eventually branched into like World War II games, Manowar Assault Squad and things like that, and eventually got into YouTube. Geez, I don't remember, maybe 4 years ago or so, maybe it was even 5, started to have live streaming. And I wanted to live stream more, but those games didn't really, they were good, but they were not really what I wanted to do for live streaming. So I started to get into city building games like City Skylines and, Sim City, that people probably remember a lot more than that if they're a little older. That is a very good classic game. And started doing more building games, survival games, games where you manage taverns and bars, and games like The Sims too, where you build and have to manage. And so recently doing a lot more survival games, recently playing Grounded, which is a game like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the game. You shrink down to like the size of an ant and have to survive with your friends. And I've just been enjoying that and doing a lot more multiplayer with people now, and just building a really great group. Got a lot of great people that we stream with and stream for. So shout out to everybody watching right now.
Yeah. Hi, my For some reason, the chat on my big screen is not functioning properly, so I'm trying to monitor it over here on my left with the YouTube feed. If I do not get back to comments right now, trust me, I'll get back to comments at the end of the show. If you can see them over on your side, feel free to feed me questions if they come up on the feed.
For
Uh,
sure.
I'm trying to get this thing refreshed over here as you're talking. Uh, Now, I know a couple of the city builder games you turned me on to. The Tavern, Crossroads Tavern, Foundations,
Oh yeah.
Flotsam,
Yep.
I think was one you just recently
Yeah,
redid.
that's
They
a
did
great one.
updates on Flotsam. Um, those are three of the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. Fun games to play and a completely
Yep.
different type of interaction from the games, the city builder games back when I was a kid, which were basically SimCity and Civilization, I think. Shogun.
Right. Yep.
I'm dating myself. That was a Nintendo game. Good lord. Uh, but yeah, I mean those the immersive type of city builder universe, and as you go through and build these games out, you really, especially in the sandbox uh, platforms that you work on, you really kind of explore out how those games work and try to find ways to show where they're cracked a little bit and how you can exploit them, but then also just build them out and try and build really big, beautiful things, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's really great to be creative, both, compete against yourself and then also push the game to its limits or just try to create your own story within it. I've done that plenty of times where I've made my own story within the world, but it's also fun to just play whatever they've laid out for you and just kind of get the achievements and make the best that you can with what you got sometimes.
Now, when you crack open one of these games, do you turn on the camera the first time you play, or do you do a little playthrough first to kind of get familiar with it and then flip on the camera and start recording?
Well, that is a good question. I've been actually debating on what's best to do with that sometimes because a lot of times people will say we want to see the first look and want the impression immediately, which when a game is coming out, people want to know about it immediately. They want to know what game is this? How do I get it? Where is it? How much is it? They want to know as much information in the shortest amount of time as possible. But other games are a little bit more complicated. Like I mentioned, the RTS games, you really got to know what you're doing. If you're playing like Hearts of Iron, you need to really have some practice to do well in that game. So there's some games that are a little more forgiving. So Foundation, that was probably like the first time that I did that. Like one time playthrough, just kind of learning as I went. And then I experimented each time with different
Mm-hmm.
things. So I guess it just kind of depends on the game. And I can almost tell at this point by screenshots that I've been doing it long enough. But, sometimes an update will come out and I'll try it out ahead of time just so I can highlight and say these are the things that are new. For example, Grounded recently, we have somebody going in and looking at all the files of the game to see what's new and what might be different. So if you're trying to, compete in the market by saying, "Hey, here's all the new stuff, and I got the scoop on everything that's new." It's good to try it out first. But a lot of the times, I just want to dive in. I mean, just like the times of being young, when you got a game for your birthday or Christmas or whatever, or somebody loaned you one, or a family member did a hand me down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awesome to pop it in and just go right away. No reading the manual. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, I know, right? The manuals
You
are.
want to play?
We'll figure it out. We'll get to it. Now, I also remember the first time you were doing
Yeah.
the. Say what? I'm sorry.
No, no. Go ahead.
Oh, the first time you were doing a play. The first time I watched your playthrough in Foundations, Glory to Raptoria. Um,
Yeah. Thank
the
you.
the it was an early beta stage release, and the
Right.
market distribution function was totally broken, and
Yeah.
everything was piling into the warehouses, everything was piling into the market, and nobody was getting food. You couldn't figure out how to do it. I remember watching it thinking, I can figure this out. And then I downloaded the game, and I played it for several hours. My lovely wife would attest to that. I played it for several hours and was very
Yeah.
frustrated over the same thing because I built up a very beautiful city and everybody starved and
Yeah.
vanished.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that game's more forgiving with the death side, but yeah, the mark that's what's interesting is the whole the system of supply and demand in those games to see it. Well, that's why I love those railroad tycoon games too. You get to see a farm ship grain to a like a ranch and then see the cattle then you know grow from that grain and then be sent to the butchers and the whole that's another thing that just it's that boyhood that train or the construction set to see
Hmm.
something be you set up something and to see it build something else is really exciting. That's what's different from I don't even foundation feels more like um, a different city builder because you can some it's based on materials, so it's
Hmm.
not just pay money to build thing. You actually have to get those materials built, so it's much more complicated than a typical city builder.
It's extremely complicated as far as it goes because you're right. You're harvesting materials, you're converting base materials into secondary and sometimes tertiary materials, and then those have to get sent back out. And you have to have the people to build it, uh, and I've also noticed on those on foundations, you go to setting up the houses and you get the residential, and then you go immediately to the fort,
Yeah,
the manor house and the fort, and you build a castle. Uh,
yeah, I've
they're
gotten
one of those
good.
boyhood things. You got to have a castle.
Yeah, yeah, you got to assert that dominance, and it's a good way to just kind of like spend all the extra resources once you've gathered everything up because it's one of those games. A lot of these games you can just kind of build to the corners of the map, but if you don't get creative in your own constraints, it just becomes build the biggest city you can, and after a while, that gets boring. Sometimes it's fun to try to build, like simulate a disaster or something like that, and so make the map flooded or whatever you
Sure.
can do. And it's really cool. It's really interesting to see. It becomes more problem solving than creativity. That's what I like the most. A lot of people
Hmm.
get frustrated because they see a problem, they know there's a solution, but a lot of the times they just, it's just like there must be a fix, just do the fix. But that's not life. Life's a little bit more messy than that. So not everything is click and drag a bridge and boom, it appears.
Yeah.
Some of those games you've got to deliver all those materials, and that takes time and money and effort, and that's just super appealing to see. That's why the survival games I think appeal as much as city builder games because if you're working with a small group of 4 people, food still needs to be prepared and brought back to the base camp. Some there needs to be defenses from wild animals or whatever, and everybody's responsible. Just like how when you build a city, you got to have the fire department, the hospital, police, and you need to build those roads to make sure that if there's 1 million people in the city, it needs a much different road system than if there were 1,000 people,
Right.
and it just makes it a lot more fun to solve those problems.
And that's one of the big differences between these city builder games and other games like Polybridge and bridges like that, where there's an optimized solution that you can find in Polybridge, for
Yep.
example. But in something like Foundations, there's absolutely the opposite of an optimized solution because you don't have any control of where you put houses. You kind of do the range, and they plop the houses down wherever they want to plop them.
True.
And the solution is kind of in the overall general operation of problem solving, like you said, and not so much like the old Sim City map where you have so many houses and so many commercial and lay the roads just right, lay the rails just right, do all that stuff. And those are my jams
Right.
back in the day, doing Sim City and Railroad
Yep.
Tycoon and those games. I mean, I sunk I can't tell you how many hours into playing those games. Of course, when I was a kid, it was on CDs and floppy disks. Uh, Further dating myself.
Yeah. Same for me.
Yeah. Uh, do you download all your games now from Steam?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I got a physical copy. Everything, interestingly enough, I was thinking about this recently. Steam, the new PlayStation and other consoles are going to be pretty much all digital, but PC has been digital for probably the last almost decade, I think. I can remember the reason I downloaded Steam was they had an offer to download Team Fortress 2 for free. So I
Mm-hmm.
made an account, and then, next thing you know, a Steam sale hits and you're buying games. And just being able to download things instantaneously is just so much more convenient than finding the CD or keep storing all that stuff. It's so nice.
True, true. So another question about the games and how and the process
It's
you go
much
through
easier.
recording them. When you have one of these city builders or one of the strategy games, do you sit down and record several hours of gameplay and then break it up into 30-minute chunks, or do you actually record 30-minute chunks at a time, or 45-minute chunks, or however long the particular episode is? Because when you say in your video, we're going to break it right here, do you physically stop the recording and then just pick up the next? Is it a physical break where you step away from it, or do you sit down and do like 6 hours at a time and just break it either through editing or through your recording software?
Yeah, doing marathons, streaming has gotten me a lot more used to doing these long-term, entertainment, and streaming is almost kind of like yeah, you could almost cut a stream down into many different portions. But for some of these city builders, if I'm playing them for the first time and they're really engaging, it is hard to put it down, and you kind of want to get to a point where, um, usually I'll do a video a day. So if
Mm-hmm.
I do maybe, if I play for 2 hours, that'll equal about 4 videos, 4 days worth of video, like another four. It kind of depends on if the game requires missions or something like that, and I see 20 missions, I try to do like 4 or 5 at a time, depending on how long they take. But for a city builder, it'll be like, a lot of the times it's good to get feedback from people. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll know if you play too far ahead, people will keep telling you about the same problems or something you may have missed. So it's a good idea to get ahead, but then also not. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
Little
know that
Billy,
more than
hey
anyone else. To
YouTuber.
to get yeah. Yeah. You'll get the kids who are trying. They want you to do the thing you may have missed, and yeah, that's where the Laura Billy comes in. But um, yeah, typically it's maybe like 4 episodes or so. Like for example, I recently got access to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and
Oh,
I've been
nice.
playing it like crazy. And I've already pre-recorded 6 episodes, so I know there's some function that I missed out on or some feature, but when I get access to, I'm waiting for Microsoft to give me an okay to put it up, but they allowed me to record it. So in this case, it's like I can't not play the game, but also I know that there's going to be people seeing something on another video that, oh, here's how you do that, and they'll write a long paragraph on how it works and stuff like that. So you're always judging or always juggling whether or not you want to continue, or do you stop, or do you do you do a full playthrough. A lot of the times, some of the smaller games that I played or demos or previews can be done in a one chunk
Mm-hmm.
section. And if you get a huge following on it, you can always come back and do it again, based on everybody's feedback. But for city builder games, I like them too much to just do one video a day. I'll do like a four piece recording and then probably come back later.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, you kind of sit down in two 2 hour chunks and kind of put them together, as opposed to sitting down for an entire afternoon, 6 hours. Because I know there's some of these games, especially the real time strategy games, you can sit down and just burn through an entire live stream. I've seen some of the live streamers who play 6 hours at a stretch of, oh, I don't know, Forts or Polybridge or any of those popular games that are out right now, and they'll blast it out on Twitch, especially where they can
Right.
throw out big content. Fortnite guys will do that, where they'll do a live stream on YouTube or Twitch, and they'll just play all afternoon and dump out a whole lot of video. I've done live Fortnite streaming. I'm terrible, but I've
Yeah,
done
me
it,
too.
and it's watching the whole, like, the the live stream Fortnite's dreadful because because there's the
Yeah.
dropping in and going to the place, and then when you die you go back to the hub, and then you wait, and there's waiting, and then there's dropping in. There's a whole bunch of dead time. And when they do the 30-minute shows on the YouTube, everything's cut,
Yeah.
and all you get to see are the kills and the wins, and you don't
Hmm.
see the 8 hours of trying to get the 3 wins. But I guess
Right.
city builders are a little bit different because that's a progressive development in that whole 30. There's nothing to cut out of that 30 minutes. You get
Yeah, a
two
lot of the
hours. It's
time. Yeah.
it's 4 30-minute shows.
Yeah, that's true. And some people will do time lapses so they can show more of that in that time. But yeah, you're right. Fortnite, when people live stream that, they'll circle back to do like you said, more edited content to get the YouTube audience and the Twitch audience are quite different. Streaming, I
Mm-hmm.
think people realize you need a lot more patience, but there's more a bigger payoff because you get a bigger chunk of entertainment if you're really into something.
Right.
But yeah, city builders, there's really no room to. In fact, a lot of the times, if I ever cut something in a city builder, a lot of the times are not happy. Like in, for example, Don a Man, which is another.
Another
It's a
one you turned me
caveman
on to.
city
Yeah.
builder. That's a great one, and there's some eras in that one where it's like before man discovers farming. There's kind of like domestication of dogs and a few. They're important, but they're very minor for what you could do in your city. It doesn't really help you to unlock new buildings and build new stuff. You have to go through it like humanity did to learn these things, but it doesn't really help to build a bigger city. But sometimes people feel like they're robbed if they don't get to see every click of the mouse, every road that you build, every wall that you put down. And a lot of the times I'm realizing that it's the older audience that wants to see every little bit, as where the younger audience can see. For example, if you say you're going to build a bridge here, and then you jump forward later, and those bridges are there, they'll notice that. They don't need to see the validation of it actually being constructed to know that's where it came from.
Makes sense. And I guess that's the big difference between the different audiences that you play to, because it's not all kids,
Nope.
and it's not all grown-ups. There's kind of a
Right.
big mix in between the two, and a
Hmm.
surprisingly large number of grown-ups that watch this stuff and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and there are new games like City Skylines, which is heavily inspired by, SimCity.
Hmm.
So you and I grew up on SimCity, but the only reason we might play City Skylines is from all those SimCity memories. So for a lot of the young people, City Skylines is the first major city builder that they've experienced, and they think that's, the end all be all and that it's great. And it is great. And it's inspired by a bunch of other games that, around it made it great too. Games like Tropico. There's things in that game that, it make it not so much about the money, it is about materials after a while, where, you'll need to farm, like I mentioned before, farming to bring it to the ranches to then export the meat for the industries. And that's such, oh man, we could have only dreamed about that back in the
I
day.
know, right?
That's huge.
Yeah, when SimCity 2000 came out and they had the farms that were off there in the country area and the missile
Yeah.
silos, and that was like
Uh
revolutionary. Like, oh my
it
god, we can
was.
do all this stuff. Uh, wasn't wasn't quite so much fun having the farm there because it just killed property values. But whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
We always tried to get the missile silos.
But it was fun to see. Oh yeah. Well, and that's what was amazing about that game, is that there was so many different buildings, and back then you had to get the expansion packs where you had to buy the $20, and it could take, like, after the game came out, it was 2 years to get maybe 20 new things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we mentioned before, with digital, with Steam, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you have this game on Steam, or a lot of these games on Steam, you can download user made stuff. I mean, imagine all that creativity being unleashed now. Everybody
Right.
who's way more creative than you and I or anyone watching could be. Some people will recreate every single major, U.S. office building in the United States, and they'll allow you to download it, and you can plop it in your city. I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day,
Amazing.
you'd have to wait. It was a long time.
Yeah. And I thought it was so cool in the updated uh, way back when in the SimCity 2000 when they had the landmark city or the landmark buildings that you could get. I could get Pennzoil Tower here from Houston. And I'm like, this is
Yeah,
awesome. I'm definitely getting that in my city. It was probably the prettiest
yeah,
building we've gotten downtown. Not nearly the biggest or the most iconic, but I mean, yeah, absolutely. I wanted to have that. And they had all the others that you could get too. But I'm playing it and I don't even care. I just want to get Pennzoil Tower and then drop some asteroids on my their meteor strikes and
mhm,
Godzilla attacks on my build on my
yeah,
cities.
yeah. It
That's what
made it
SimCity
great.
was all about.
Yeah, absolutely. The disasters were a huge part of that game. I mean, if you weren't a disastrous mayor, you could at least destroy it other ways.
Yeah,
So that
and
was always fun.
that's probably one of the things that city builders are missing out on these days. You can build big, beautiful cities and you can have famines, but you can't drop Godzilla and forest fires in the middle of your city. You ought to be able
No,
to.
not a lot of them allow you. It's close. They let other things, but no meteorites. Not like SimCity 4 did, where you could just level downtown for fun just because you were bored.
The finger of
Yep.
God again
Always
and
save
again and
before
again
though.
and again.
Yeah. It never
So,
got old to blow things up.
oh yeah, never, never at all. Uh, another classic that I enjoyed, and I'm thinking about dropping, going out to Steam and getting it down. Have you ever played Medieval Total War?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Yep.
where was your? I mean, how recently do you have good memory? Any memories of that? Can I pick your brain about that? Because I've been thinking about downloading that one myself to get back onto it, but I haven't cleared out enough free time to drop an entire Saturday playing that game yet.
I can remember, I think my first Total War game was Vikings, I
Hmm.
believe, playing it at some friend's house on a laptop, and just it being too complicated for me to know the difference between, like, formations of keeping archers in the back so they can attack with range and spearmen up front so they can take down horses. It really wasn't until many years later that I gave those games a try, knowing that I knew much more and could do that, and
Hmm.
seeing other just crazy YouTubers out there doing all sorts of experiments of, like, what's the absolute highest number of, like, knights that can be taken out by crossbowmen without taking a loss and stuff like that. So when as YouTube started to gain popularity again around 2010 or so, I can remember somehow getting Shogun 2, which was total, it's basically in Japan, which was really cool, but not really fully understanding stuff. So more recently, I think I played a few more games that were like that weren't Total War, but they were definitely inspired by Total War. That is
Yeah.
a really great series to get into. Actually, I remember the most recent one was Total War Three Kingdoms, taking place in China,
Okay.
and that's really when I was starting to have a lot of fun, where you can have like 50,000 troops surrounding a city, and you could just catapult everything and see the destruction. It was awesome. It was really, really fun.
Well, cool. Yeah. What I really liked about it, way back in the day, was that the interface was on two different levels. There was the tactical interface where you controlled your
Yes.
individual armies, and then there was or individual units in the army when you went to battle. But then there was the
Yep.
map level where you went and did all the stuff and you did the region building and things like that. And it was real quick when I discovered that I was not really good at the strategic end on the unit level, but I was really good at the other level, the higher level.
Yeah.
Uh, and and I would play it. I played it again and again and again, and I did the standard strategy where you try to build your country up and go out and attack everybody, right? And then
Yep.
I got to the point where I tried something different, where instead of going out and in good faith trying to conquer my neighbors, I'd build up a big giant army, send them out as far
Hmm.
as I could send them, and then when the army finally died, just sell off everything in those lands.
Yeah.
They were going to rebel anyway. They were going to
Oh
revolt.
yeah.
The neighbors were going to take them back, but when they got them back, they got dumpster fires, stuff that didn't have barracks, stuff that didn't have forts, stuff that didn't have improved fields. Just strip the land clean, and I kept doing it. You go out there until finally you have this like barrier around you of just garbage property, uh, and all your
Right.
neighbors are weaklings. And if they ever form into a real power again, they're a garbage power. And then I could build up my army and just plow through them. And that's kind of how I broke the game.
Yeah, right. Well, that's Mongol tactics. That's actually viable. People do tests like that all the time
Yeah.
to see, like, what can I get away with in games. It's awesome. It's really
So
cool.
YouTube and Twitch land, you've heard it here first. If I download uh, Total War again, that's the strategy I'm going to drop. I'm going to sit down on a Saturday, play the whole damn thing out, break it into 30-minute chunks, and I'll put it up over the course of I don't know. It should take about 8 hours. I figure so that'd be a good 16 weeks worth of content.
Yeah, that'd be
Something to
fun.
put up, something that people can watch and entertain themselves during the quarantine. so
Yeah, for sure.
so tell us when you got this thing started. You started your channel way back in '05, right?
Yep, that's right.
And you
Yeah,
were
that's
doing it.
actually the year that YouTube got started.
So you're one of the uh, you jumped in when YouTube got started with the first wave of content creators. Then.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I was making YouTube didn't really. It was really the wild. Oh man, not even the Wild West. That was more civilized than the beginning of YouTube. It was almost like it was like Don a Man. Like it was just like somebody would make a viral video that would be 8 seconds. This was the time of viral videos where Numa and like
Oh yeah.
Leroy Jenkins, all these videos that got popular were just shared via email and MySpace. There wasn't Twitter or anything like that. So nobody knew what to go there to watch, and nobody knew what there was to make. But over the years and years, people finally kind of figured out, all right, comedy is pretty good. Sketch comedy is actually something that, people can write. And so that became really popular first, is like vlogging and things on face cam. Computer tech wasn't really good enough to capture real time video game footage. Like when I stream, uh, the computers now are powerful enough to run the game, and the streaming software and the internet is much better too. In 2005, if you were going to download, there was no streaming. There was so much that was against YouTube back in 2005. It's incredible that it started when it did. No, so at the beginning, it was really just like anybody who was lucky enough to have like their own laptop and a camcorder was able to start YouTube. And I created a account just to kind of like comment on videos at the time. I didn't know that you needed an account to comment. So after about 5 years in 2010, internet started to finally pick up. Games were starting to get better, but it wasn't really until about 2 years after that I really started in like 2012. And again, being blind and not really knowing what to do. Or at the time, I was playing back in the strategy games, Men of War, Assault Squad 2, which was World War II. Didn't really until maybe 2013, 2014 that I was like, this is actually fun. I like this. I'm getting some feedback. We started, even before Discord existed, we started a TeamSpeak so that way everyone could chat with each other in real time, which then helped out the recordings because then you could hear everyone communicate in real time. And for multiplayer games like that, it was both good to communicate in real time for the team, but also for the viewers to hear like what everyone was thinking in real time. And we got heated back then, man. We were like, I was back before 2016, YouTube, you could really say or do whatever you wanted. And so, the persona was much more different. I was probably more impatient because I was like in my early to mid 20s and stuff. So I just wanted to win. So we were very competitive in those games.
Early
But
to mid 20s
another
in
wave
'05.
came around like 20. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think oh man, what was it? 2016, I think July of 2016, YouTube kind of laid down the hammer of like saying, hey, you can't, like, we're going to start cleaning up our act for the advertisers and stuff. And so from then on out, I've been kind of getting more and more away from the violent content,
Yeah.
which
I mean, you even
is
had
funny
problems with YouTube
because,
with your
you can
World
play
War II
games.
games that you played that you were posting up a few months ago.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of stepped away, because as we get, further into 2020, 2021, anything that has to do with like World War II is either, it's very weird. It's either extremely successful because people meme it and try to make, have fun with it. But I'm just kind of trying to play the game and be victorious. And I think I don't know. Viewers' patience might be changing, but YouTube's not as it doesn't promote that type of video anymore. It's more
Right.
about the creativity and the connection between people. But I would say if you're playing Hearts of Iron, where you're trying to be like the actual powers that took place in World War II and play it out historically, that doesn't seem to be as interesting to people anymore. They know the history of World War II, so it's now about like it's the challenges, like what you said about Total War, where it's like how far can I get with these troops? People do the same thing. It's like how long can I last as Luxembourg, and they try to build up the tiny nation of Luxembourg. How long can I last against everybody being independent? And it's interesting challenges, and
Sure.
that's kind of what I figured out is that took forever to figure out, but it's like that's what people want to see, is not necessarily me play grounded or foundation. It's more like building the cathedral, working on the marketplace. You very more selective, focused things, which is good. And there's a lot of some of my favorite YouTubers, like my friend Uthris, and a few people who play the Planet Coaster series, where you're building amusement parks. That's another one I was big into. I don't know if you remember Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I
Did you
remember
play
all the
that
Tycoon
often?
games. Yeah.
Park management. Oh my. Oh,
So
they
much
were good.
fun.
Oh yeah, because you played Railroad Tycoon, so
Hmm.
you know what's up then.
Yep.
Yeah,
Transport
when you
Tycoon, Railroad Tycoon,
the-
Giant of Industry. That was another
yeah,
one that I really enjoyed.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we even still play. They made a modified version of Transport Tycoon Deluxe, which is
Yeah.
called Open TTD, where everyone can play multiplayer and play against each other. And it's like the only multiplayer game where you can be competitive in the creative, like like the corporate battle, actual like capitalism, where it's like
Right.
who's going to be first, who's going to provide the best service at the lowest price, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's really just starting to become more interesting, because the winning a battle is one thing, but building a city or building like the amusement parks like those guys do, it's just so much more interesting, because they try to
Building,
recreate real world parks.
yeah, building a
It's
system that
crazy.
can run
Yeah,
versus the A to B finish line thing. Building an actual system that can keep running, and then
absolutely.
once you've achieved your achievements, it can keep running.
And I know there's a few city skylines YouTubers out there that will mostly try to fix traffic. There'll be cities that people will submit with horrific traffic problems, and
If
they'll
a
go through to
place,
try to, hey, we're going to
yeah,
delete this bridge and we're going to redo this. It's really satisfying. Yes,
yeah,
very satisfying to see that. Very
I
satisfying.
can spend a embarrassing amount of time watching those videos. I don't even want to give a number. It's a ridiculous amount.
Yeah,
Perusing
that's why I
through the
can't start.
comments
I,
on
I
the
can't I can't get
YouTube.
started in there, because it's like,
Say what? Sorry, I was talking over you. I didn't mean to.
I was just no, that's okay. I don't even get started watching half of them, because I know it's a trap, because those videos are so good and it's so interesting to me that I I have to be the YouTuber. It's very hard to, make the videos and also watch them at the same time,
Oh, sure,
and
yeah.
also try not to be, in a way, you're trying not to be like influenced, so that way somebody doesn't say that you're copying someone else. But it's too hard not to be a fan of somebody else who's just blowing your mind with stuff, and you try it too. And I think it's a fair and even playing field, where
Hmm.
everyone can be inspired by each other, but you just try to do what you can do to your best ability, and
Yeah,
that's
I,
the word.
I was going to ask you about that too, because if you watch enough of these, they kind of start to run together a little bit. And how do you guard against that? Because even when I go out and in what I do, I make whiskey, and when I go out and I taste other whiskeys, I'm like, oh, this is really yummy type of stuff. Can I do this? Uh,
Yeah,
but they're the local differences, uh, the geographical differences that you can never replicate it completely. I assume it's kind of the same thing. I talk to comedians and musicians; they're always influenced by other people. I assume it's the same thing with content creators on YouTube, where you see stuff you like, but
yep,
you can't replicate it, even if you tried.
no, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, unless you
yeah.
completely, literally
You're
stole the
you're
video and
definitely,
just
you
do a
get
voiceover.
ideas from other people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you get ideas all the time from everybody else, and that's about as far as it can go. You really can't just copy paste. You
yeah,
still have to do it yourself.
right, right. Hey, YouTuber.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well, that's a whole
perusing,
different thing. That's
just commenters telling you what to do, right? Uh,
yeah,
so,
right.
so perusing back to the comments real quick. They're not loading up on my screen, but I can pull them off the phone here. I've got uh, No Yap says glory to Raptoria. Um,
Absolutely good.
Rob C wants to know when is War Thunder? When is War Thunder?
uh, oh boy, I don't know. Well, hopefully soon. I guess, since I've been so into Microsoft Flight Sim, it's the problem, man. There's too many good games and not enough time now.
There you go.
War Thunder is definitely near and dear.
Ram Air Gaming says ask him about Dino Diner. When's it coming back? So,
Oh
hey
yeah.
Raptor, what about Dino Diner? When's it coming back?
Old Farming Sim series.
Is it now?
I want to go back to that series so bad, but again, I had to move on to new games. That's such the problem, that I can't.
So many
Sometimes I
games,
just
so
can't
little
finish
time.
series, which is a problem of mine too.
All right, you're gonna
That's
have
right.
to unpack this one for me. Riley Plays commented, "I once donated $500 to eat a jar of mayonnaise on stream, and it hasn't happened yet."
We actually had a joke about mayonnaise streams a long time ago, where it's a joke where no matter how, when certain YouTubers, like for example, Dr. Disrespect, Twitch streamer who plays, well, I mean, former Twitch streamer who plays games like PUBG and Fortnite, like you mentioned earlier, came over to YouTube recently after like being banned or whatever, and he had a stream where it was just an image up, and it was just basically like, hey, I'll be streaming here now, but he wasn't live. It was just basically an image just saying, hey, and that was it. And people were donating money and becoming members, and they were subscribing, and he was gaining a lot of traction that way. And he really, when you get to a certain point on YouTube or Twitch or anything, that's where the mayonnaise joke came in, where it's like I was saying, like, if I get popular enough and people love the channel enough where I can, put my webcam aimed at a jar of mayonnaise, and people will just donate money and like say, oh my god, this is the best stream ever, on something so simple. If they fall in love with the idea of you and what you do, you can do something just crazy. And people love the doc because he, created a character that, it's funny, and it's just kind of what people wanted, was like this disrespectful gamer guy who's just kind of really just kind of short with people and whatnot. And I love that question because it shows, like, when you get to a certain point on YouTube or on Twitch, it'll kind of just work itself out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Uh, that makes, yeah. I mean, in fact, I've fiddled around on the uh, uh, YouTube Fortnite channels, and I've seen the live stream of the Kraken event that's going to happen. I don't know if you know what the Kraken
Oh
event
yeah.
is, but it's was ridiculously dumb. Me and my boys got a good laugh at it, uh, and just stuff like that. Just people doing just the
Yeah.
ridiculousness of people buying into these streams and these shows, and yeah, it's a ton of fun. And it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big giant forum, and it's a big wide place for people to do all kinds of fantastic stuff. Um, you mentioned in our pre-show when we were chatting, you had a real job that you quit to do the full time YouTubing about, what did you say, 3 years ago, right?
uh it was more like maybe 1.5, almost 2 years
Okay.
now. Yeah,
What
like
was Raptor in a
yeah, like
previous
late
life?
2018 or 19.
What were you in a previous life? Were
Oh
you a
well,
mortgage
I was
broker or
working.
something like that? Something boring?
Yeah, yeah, something basically that. Yeah, like accounting and working in offices.
No kidding. I was just joking. I was taking a stab in the dark because my former my former
No.
job, before I was the whiskey guy, before I was a spirit advisor, spirit guide. What do I have on my cards? Before I was a spirit guide with the old Humble Distilling Company here, I actually was a trust officer. I worked at a bank as well. So a good boring job to have. Sit at a desk all day, answer phones, solve other
Yeah.
people's problems, and then next thing you know, I'm passing out drinks at Specs and hanging out with burlesque dancers and comedians and YouTube
Wow.
gamers via Zoom, doing all kinds
Right.
of ridiculous stuff. Never would have thought I would be here. When you were like way, 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 of course, way, way back when your guidance counselor said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" YouTube didn't exist. Uh, if you were having a conversation with high
Well,
school
it
you,
did. It did.
how did it now? Oh, well, I guess so. Back in 2005, when you were in your
Yeah.
mid to late
Back.
20s,
Yeah.
what would you have told
No one
high
thought that
school
was going to be
you?
a career. Yeah.
What would present day you have told high school you uh, back in the day, as far as what you want to be, what he thinks he wants to be when he grows up, and what's he going to be when he grows up?
I think deep in my heart at the time, I wanted to make games. I thought that was about, in terms of working and making, like, having something to do where you could make money and have it involve games. The only thing was to make games. There wasn't a thing to do. And like you and I were joking about earlier, Minnesota, about 9 months of the year, you're stuck indoors because of the cold and the weather and such.
Right.
So yeah, from the very beginning, my parents, I can remember bringing home the Sega Master System and playing columns and baseball in the basement. And ever since then was just enthralled with games, just seeing what they could do, getting excited about the next, thing that was happening. So definitely as I was growing up, I knew games were fun and I knew games were a big business and really enjoyable. So I mean, if I could reach back and give any advice, it would just be it'd be like, listen, you're going to do this thing called YouTube. Listen, focus on those thumbnails and those titles. Don't worry about anything else. And I still had to work a full time job, so it's like, yeah, get a job and fight to keep it like you're supposed to, and keep doing the thing that you do. But honestly, I really kind of wish I would have taken the jump to do YouTube full time sooner because I didn't realize I was actually kind of decent at it, But if I had more time, I could have put more effort into it earlier. Like without that extra time, I didn't realize how fun or how good it was. I was at it. It's almost like um, if you grew up in a neighborhood where like you were really good at hockey or something like that, or really good at fighting games, for example, or really good at mathematics, and you didn't have anybody really to compete against in order to kind of judge your skill.
Hmm.
It's kind of like that where I didn't really realize that. So yeah, if I could go back, it would just be like a top, like if I could just get 10 tips to doing YouTube better, that would be it, just to try to encourage myself to start even earlier. It's just so fun. It's awesome to just be you get to be your own boss. It's your own company. It's great.
Sure. Okay, so the flip side of that is, was the platform ready for you to do it sooner? So would you
Mm.
was the ecosystem there to do it 5 years ago in the same way that this ecosystem is there to do it 2 years ago or even now?
One of the longtime YouTubers I can think of are like Smosh and PewDiePie, and games were starting back then. For myself personally, I didn't think the internet. So before like 2010, no way, because I don't think there were internet options to get internet fast enough to even make it worth it. Everything would have, if I was to do an upload, it would have taken like 24 hours, and it probably would have been dial up. So I would have hogged the phone line wherever I was living at the time.
Yeah.
And I would have really had to have convinced myself that it would have been monetarily possible, so that way I could, continue to put my time into it. It's the only hobby I can think of where it actually pays you to do it, at least gaming on YouTube.
Sure.
Because the other things, my dad was really into fishing and hunting, and those were expenses. Like for that man to own a boat and guns and things like that, that costs money. Even if you were to nail the big buck,
Hmm.
it didn't you didn't get $1,000 prize with it, or whatever to pay the thing off. So
Right.
glad that, like, I'm actually glad that I was brought on those things, and that he was so passionate about sharing and getting me in that boat, and not to be afraid of guns and fishing and all that stuff, and how to clean deer,
Sure.
because just like hunting and stuff, YouTube can be a little bit messy too. And you do have to kind of, it is a business, and you need to be kind of competitive there, and really uppity. So man, I think it's harder now to start, but it's easier to be where I am now, I think. But I still wish I would have started earlier. YouTube's kind of put some more things in the way, but with things like Twitter, and you're streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, so
Hmm.
the ability to stream multiple places, just I could have maybe done it 2 years earlier. Um, but that's about it. But I guess that's a good sign of it being something I truly like. If you think to yourself, man, why didn't I think of this earlier, do it
Hmm.
earlier? I think it's a legitimate feeling, or a legitimate heartfelt thought of being like, man, I should have did this years ago. I should have bought this house years ago. I should
Yeah.
have moved here years ago, that kind of thing.
And
So
I
I
think
guess
about
it's
that.
a good regret to have, I think.
Yeah, I think about that same thing with the whiskey. We started in 2012. We got our license in 2013. We released our first batches in 2014. But the laws in Texas wouldn't have let us do it in 2010. We couldn't have done it sooner because
Right.
the way the laws were. And I'm trying to think back to when I got my first high speed internet connection. I think that was at my. I don't know when it was at my house, but I can think of when I got the first one at my job, which was
Oh yeah.
probably 99 or 2000. It was a long time before I got a high speed connection to my house, and I didn't have a smartphone until, geez, probably 2012, maybe 2011. I don't know. One with the video
Yep. Same
capability
for
and
me.
all that stuff, because I was kind of slow to that party. Um, but I probably got my first high speed connection to the house probably around 2010 ish. That sounds about right. So, the earliest that I could have been able to stream anything out of my house would have been 2000, 5 years ago probably. So I kind of think about that, not just the timing of the ability to do it and the games and the ecosystem
Yeah.
being available, but just the technology that could allow you to do it, if you had all the skills.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it feels about the same, where America. up until about 2015 really didn't have everybody really didn't have the same opportunity for the high speed. They were still building it. So really, the earliest I could have started is 2015 full time, but really more like 2018 or late 2018. So yeah, like 2, 3 years. But I
Oh,
at least kind of figured it out by then. But I should have taken the plunge fully. But it's a good regret, I think.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, I wish I'd been doing this a lot longer too. So I got two really good questions for you that came off a chat here. Um, both
Yeah.
from, well, one from Eric, one from Nema Lass. There we go. Okay, so we got two really good questions. What is the most stressful part about what you do? I mean, I can tell you the most stressful part about what I do
Uh,
is that
yeah.
waiting for the actual whiskey to age because the wait is
Yeah.
interminable. It's forever, and it drives me absolutely crazy. So, what's the most stressful thing that you do?
Wow. I can't believe you said that because that's the same thing that I get on all the time is the waiting. I
Yeah.
think now I know a few of the people in chat, and they probably heard me say this many times, but yeah, waiting for games to release, waiting to get access, being able to schedule things out is really hard because the YouTube game is about being first. So if a game comes out tomorrow, you want to be able to release a video today, the day before it releases for everybody.
Sure.
And a lot of that has to do with like going behind the scenes and writing developers and saying, hey, I'm a YouTuber. I know you guys send out keys early to everybody so there can be reviews so that people can have a chance to play it and say, hey, is this game good or not? And content creators about 5 years ago and even earlier weren't considered to be as legitimate as they are now. Now, us all playing a game and saying this game is great can drive sales so much more. I think being able to watch somebody who just seems like a regular Joe playing a game, other than somebody who's reviewing it, trying to go for certain things. I mean, I always say this when I stream. I always say like one's in chat if you've bought a game because of me, and it always, people are always saying, "Oh, I bought mini a game because of you." Even you said that you got Foundation,
At least
because
three
of
that I
watching
can
me and
think of.
probably other
Yeah.
people play. So wait, yeah. Yeah. So waiting to get those games first, like Foundation is still in a beta. So the ability to look at that game before it even came out, before anybody else got to see it, that's the thing that I know that drives the most amount. I mean, YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much fun you have at it, YouTube put a clause in their contract recently that said your channel has to be financially viable, which basically means if you're just throwing up memes and you're not really making the money and you're taking up space, they can just choose to axe you at any time. So it kind of made me afraid and thinking like, oh man, I got to go like 110% on everything I do because I was just going to do it anyway, honestly. Like it's just an excuse to work harder. But yeah, I would say the hardest thing is just waiting. Like I told you before, the Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm waiting to release videos. I just need permission from Microsoft to actually put those videos up. I've got 6 ready to go, and I can't wait to play more. But because of people like Nima and Derby and other people that I record with, they rely on me to say like, what are you doing today, so that way they can schedule their stuff. So there's a lot of responsibility on me. It's not a bad thing. It's really what I would expect is that I need to wait for somebody to tell me that I can put something up so I can tell other people, hey, let's do this today. So there's a real big chain of command. And like anybody who served in the military, the game of YouTube is the same there in the terms of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of rush, 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 and then a lot of kind of waiting for the right time to strike when it comes to a video or something like
Right.
that.
Actually, scheduling out the releases. You can't just vomit it all up all the time. But it's also regular release schedule to make sure you've got content coming out on a regular schedule as well.
That's
Makes a lot
true.
of sense. Second question we had was from Eric. What's the? Nope, that was the question from Eric. Normally says Noma Let Lass says I butchered that. I'm sorry. Uh, what's the game you keep coming back to?
Oh man, there's a couple of games that I really want to play a lot more that I've just kind of burnt the story out on. World in Conflict is one real-time strategy game that just has a wonderful story. And I always praise that as being one of my favorite real-time strategy games just because of the story. It's just so well done.
Gotcha.
But games that I continue to come back to have got to be, I guess it's got to be, it's not a particular game, but maybe it's just a type of genre. Anything that gets me excited for that day of bringing home my copy of SimCity 4 from the Walmart and looking at the box and just waiting, waiting to get home and knowing that there's more waiting because you got to pop the CD in and more waiting because then it's got to install and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Back in the good old days.
it's really, yeah, but there's good old days now in seeing like screenshots and stuff. And I guess I keep coming back to the same genre of games, but that are new.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, you get to build a city, but it's caveman times. Hey, you get to build a city, but it's ancient China. Hey, you get to 1950 and, things are different. And it's like, I think that's some of the most popular content on YouTube actually is like, for example, Roblox. Someone was asking earlier, will you play that? Of course,
Yeah.
at some point, because Roblox is very familiar. It's a platform, it's a sandbox, but everything within Roblox can be different too. The game is the same, but the rules are different. And I think it's really familiar. It's almost like, you know what it's like? It Some of these games are like visiting. If you go to Japan or if you go to Germany or if you go to Mexico or Canada or whatever, it's like trying a Big Mac but in a different country. That's what it's like. You're going to the familiar McDonald's, but you're trying the same sandwich, but how does it differ? And it's exciting. It's it's the best thing in the world to be in that territory.
In France, they call it Le Big Mac.
Yeah, that's right. Royale with cheese.
They don't have a quarter pounder with cheese because they don't know what. Anyway, so
yeah, exactly.
You kids can look that up.
Good. That's good. Yeah, that's right.
We've got about 2 minutes left. Raptor, plug all your stuff.
Sure.
Where can they find you?
Right.
On
so,
Twitch and YouTube and where else? Or where you do it. I'll let you go.
Sure. Well, you guys can watch more of my videos both live and also pre-recorded on ICBM Raptor 2 on YouTube. Just search Raptor, you'll see the big blue logo. It's another guy from South America who plays Minecraft, and so do I. But look for me, and you'll know. Rat Pack on Twitch and Raptor Gamer on Twitter and Raptor Gamer on Instagram as well. And all my links should be on YouTube. So if you find me here on YouTube or Twitch, it should link to everything else.
There you go. And of course, you can find our delicious. Rob asked if my whiskey was my favorite brand. It is, and I'm not.
It is.
I don't just say that because
it's the best.
Well, thank you.
It's the
Raptor's
best.
had my
I love
whiskey
it
as well. I sent him a couple of bottles about a year ago. In fact, there's a playlist on my channel called Gamer Vids. Yours is the only video in that playlist from that live stream of Crossroads Tavern.
Crossroads Inn.
Crossroads Inn. Yeah, that video where you.
Yep.
That was the one video that we've sponsored on YouTube so far. But you can find our whiskey all across the great state of Texas.
I loved it.
And if you can't find our whiskey in a liquor store near you, get a better liquor store or send me an email and we'll see what we can do to get it in your hands at some point. Raptor, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are going to cut to our closing screen in just about, let's go with 3, 2, 1. There's the closing screen, and